A few weeks ago, a friend had asked me about doing a video on cascading common emitter transistor amplifiers. And I mentioned to him, you really can't talk about that until you first consider input and output impedances of a common emitter amplifier. So that's what we're going to discuss in today's video. Okay, so why do we care about the input impedance and output impedance of an amplifier like this common emitter amp? Well, mainly because the input impedance is really what's going to present a load to whatever the source is. And if the source has got a high output impedance, a lower input impedance here will affect the source and therefore affect the signal level going into the amplifier. Similarly, the load that we connect to the output of the amplifier is going to affect the overall load that the amplifier sees and therefore affect the gain of the amplifier. So it is important to understand what the input impedance and output impedance is of a transistor amplifier like this common emitter. Now, of course, there are two other transistor amplifier structures, such as a common collector, which has got unity voltage gain, or a common base, which is typically used in low impedance applications. The common collector or emitter follower amplifier is often used as a buffer because it features a relatively high input impedance and a nice low output impedance, so it can drive a relatively low impedance load. In fact, I dedicated an entire video to the emitter follower, and you'll find a link to that in the video description down below. So let's dig into the input and output impedance calculations for a common emitter amplifier. So here's our test circuit for today. A single transistor common emitter amplifier. Nothing special about the transistor. A 2N2222, a 2N3904, all of those will work equally well. The beta for these transistors is approximately 100, so we'll use that in our calculations. The R1 and R2 form a bias network to bias up the base to about 1.6 to 1.7 volts. That sets up about 1 volt on the emitter. Across the 1K gives me about a 1 milliamp current through the transistor. Collector and emitter currents are virtually the same. They're only different by 1%. We're using a 12 volt supply, the bypass capacitor on the supply, and capacitors to couple the input and output. We've got a simple signal generator generating a 1 kilohertz signal at several hundred millivolts. I've got that going through a resistor substitution box, but we're going to start with that set to 0, so effectively we're just connecting this directly up to the input. And with our oscilloscope, we're probing the base or the input of Q1 with channel 1 of the oscilloscope, and channel 2 we're probing the collector or the output of the transistor. And the values are shown here: 47 k ohm for R1, 8.2 k ohms for R2, 1 k ohm for the emitter resistor, and 6.8 k ohms for the collector. In the video description below, I'll include another link to a video that shows tips and tricks and design hints for a common emitter amplifier, and in that video it shows how the gain of this circuit is really essentially going to be equal to RC divided by RE. So in this case it's going to have a gain of about 6.8. There's some error in there, but it's close enough for what we're trying to do. So here's our circuit on the prototyping board. Here's our input capacitor here, the 47 k ohm R1, 8.2 k ohm R2. There's our transistor. There's our 6.8 k collector load resistor, our 1 k emitter resistor, output coupling capacitor right there. And then our probe for channel 1 is right here. Our probe for channel 2 is right there. So here's our signals on the oscilloscope. The yellow trace is the input signal. That's at 200 millivolts of division. The cyan trace here is the output. That's at 500 millivolts of division. I've got some measurements turned on, which shows us that the input amplitude is about 680 millivolts. The output amplitude is about 4.56 millivolts. And I turned on a math trace to actually calculate the gain for me, where it's taking the amplitude of channel 2 divided by the amplitude of channel 1, and that's showing me right down here that the gain is about 6.7. From the math we knew it was going to be about 6.8, and again, the error that we see here is just due to things like component tolerances and a couple of other secondary effects in the math that we're not worrying about for our first order approximation. In this case, the source impedance coming from the signal generator is only about 50 ohms. So the input impedance of the transistor amplifier is much larger than that, so it's not affecting the amplitude very much. In fact, I set the generator 700 millivolts and I'm seeing 680 millivolts, and part of that is just due to that small voltage divider. And we're seeing the output, we're just probing it directly across that 6.8 k ohm resistor with no other load attached. So we're seeing the gain as predicted by the equations of approximately 6.8, 6.7, 6.8. So what's the output impedance of a common emitter amplifier? Well, if we take a look at it, the collector looks like a current source. Current sources are very high impedance. Again, I'll link another video down below that talks about current sources and goes into effectively the impedance of a current source. So in effect, this looks like such a high impedance we can ignore it. So what that means is that our output impedance is really just going to be the load resistance, RC. Pretty simple. Now, of course, what's the implication of this? Any load that's connected to the output here effectively appears in parallel with RC. Therefore, anything in parallel with that collector resistor is going to reduce that value, and therefore that's going to reduce the gain, because the gain, as we said, is approximately equal to collector resistor divided by emitter resistance. But in this case, the collector resistance is really the collector resistor in parallel with whatever load is connected. Let's take a look at the effect of connecting an additional load to the output of the amplifier. So I'm going to connect up a 10 k ohm load, which now appears in parallel with the 6.8 k collector resistor. And we can see that the gain dropped. My output amplitude dropped, and our gain dropped to about 3.94. Call it 3.9. Maybe it's somewhere between 3.9 and 4.0. Let's see if that makes sense. So quick calculation here. We take our collector resistor of 6.8 k in parallel now with the 10 k ohm load. The 6.8 k and 10 k in parallel is about a 4 k ohm overall impedance, and therefore the gain is equal to about 4. And if we take a look at our scope, again the gain is about 3.94, close enough, not considering tolerances for the resistors. So we can certainly see that anything connected to the output of this amplifier can affect its gain, including like a cascaded amplifier, meaning that the input impedance of an amplifier that is following this one is going to affect the gain of this amplifier. So let's go take a look at input impedance next. So how do we go about calculating the input impedance of this amplifier structure? Well, the first thing to remember is that the filter capacitance on a power supply effectively shorts the power supply rail to ground as far as the signal is concerned. So in a sense, from a signal standpoint, this end of R1 is essentially connected to this end of R2. So therefore, R1 and R2 are in parallel. So the first thing we'd want to do is just calculate that parallel impedance. Now, of course, that combination of R1 and R2 in parallel is going to appear in parallel with the input impedance at the transistor, the base of the transistor. So what is that? So this is typically dominated by beta times RE. And the reason for that is, if we think about what happens with current, let's say this voltage rises up by a small amount. Obviously the voltage here is going to rise up by that same small amount, and the current here is going to also then increase. But the current that's flowing here is 100 times or beta times the current flowing here. So from the base standpoint, the current change as a result of the voltage change is 100 times less, or beta times less. That effectively makes this resistor look beta times larger. So the shortcut of that is that this resistor, when looked through the base, appears to be beta times that value. So if beta is 100, this resistor appears to be 100 times larger than its actual value. Therefore, the overall input impedance is R1 in parallel with R2 in parallel with beta times RE. Now, of course, this is actually beta plus 1 times RE, because the emitter current is beta plus 1 times the collector current. But again, we're just doing first order approximations here, so we're going to ignore that little extra beat of it. So our calculation for input impedance then is the 47K R1, 8.2K R2 in parallel. That's about 7K ohms. We know that beta is about 100, so beta times RE is about 100K ohms. 7K in parallel with 100K gives us about a 6.5K ohm input impedance looking into this transistor amplifier. Let's go verify that. Our measurement process is to put a series resistor between the signal generator and the amplifier. Increase this resistor value until the voltage value here is cut in half. When we do that, then the series resistance will basically equal the input impedance of the amp. So our process is simply to adjust this until the input signal is cut in half, and we'll go take a look and see what values we end up with. Okay, so we can see that we're starting at 680 millivolts. So I'm going to adjust the resistor substitution box here until we get to something in the neighborhood of about half of that. So let's see, right about there. We're at 344. That's close enough to half. And let's take a look at what our resistor substitution box is. And it's showing 6.5 k ohms. Now it's interesting to note that the effect of the input impedance is not really to reduce gain of the amplifier itself, but rather it's attenuating the input signal before it gets into the amplifier. Now of course that could be doing that because it's affecting the gain of the previous stage or previous circuit. Now a bit more of an advanced topic, what if the emitter is bypassed? Typically if you want to get high gain out of a common emitter amplifier, you might use a resistor in the emitter to set up the bias for the amp, but then bypass that with a capacitor so that for the signal frequencies it looks like the capacitor is shorted. That increases the gain, but it also affects the input impedance. So how do we calculate that? And again, from the previous videos linked down below, we know that the small signal emitter resistance, it's called little RE, is equal to 1 over GM, or the transconductance, which is essentially the thermal voltage divided by IC. The thermal voltage is, say, 26 millivolts at room temperature. We know our collector current in this case we already established was about 1 milliamp. Thus, in this case, the small signal emitter resistance for this amplifier, if we bypass it, is about 26 ohms. Now, of course, then the input impedance of the base is just beta times RE, or really, again, beta plus 1 times RE. So the overall impedance is R1 in parallel with R2 for the bias stage, all of that then in parallel with beta times RE. Now given that the emitter resistor is now effectively this 26 ohm incremental resistance, that means that the gain is now 6.8K divided by 26 ohms, which is about 260 if you run the calculation. And if we look at our numbers here, we're hovering, there's some noise on the signal here because it's a very small little signal we're measuring at the input now. We can see we're hovering around 250, 255. It's bouncing around because of noise. But we can see that we can verify just from the gain that our emitter resistance is now that 26 ohms. And running the calculation for that emitter bypass case, we still have R1 and R2, 47 and 8.2K. In parallel, that's about 7K. That's now in parallel with beta times 26. This will be about 2.6K. So 7 in parallel with 2.6K is about 1.9 k ohms. So by bypassing the emitter resistor, you do significantly lower the input impedance of that common emitter amplifier. So that's something to keep in mind when you're cascading stages. In order to run this last experiment to look at the gain, I had to put about 76 to 77K of resistance in series. So that in series with the 1.9 k ohm input impedance of the amplifier itself is what dropped my 700 millivolt signal down to in the neighborhood of 18 to 20 millivolts that we're seeing on the screen. So I hope you found this video on input and output impedance of common emitter amplifiers interesting. Be sure to check out the links for some of my additional videos on common emitter amps as well as the emitter follower to help aid in your design of your amplifier structures. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. Thanks again as always for watching, and we'll see you next time.